Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to deeply explore a fundamental, almost philosophical divide that is currently shaping the entire future of artificial intelligence. Right now, as we speak, two major tech giants are building technologies that are absolutely going to alter our world. But here's the catch. They're doing it from completely fundamentally opposite belief systems. We've got one company treating its creation as a highly capable, superpowered utility, while the other, well, they're treating their AI with the reverence of a brand new, burgeoning life form.
Okay, check out this provocative quote, because it instantly highlights just how differently these two companies view what they're bringing into the world. This comes from Rune, who is a well-known anonymous employee over at OpenAI. He describes their main competitor, Anthropic, not just as a typical tech lab, but as a monastery. He literally calls them a commercial religious institution singularly focused on their AI model Claude. Rune is basically arguing that Anthropic is studying and building Claude as if it were the precursor to some sort of super-ethical digital being. It's a fascinating and honestly almost alarming way to describe a software company, right?
So, here's our roadmap for today. We'll be moving through 6 quick sections. 2 visions for AI, the origin of the split, tool versus living entity, differing deployment strategies, the future of access, and finally, choosing our AI future.
Let's kick things off with Section 1. 2 visions for AI. This foundational belief system really drives every single decision made behind closed doors at these two pioneers. It's a stark contrast. One is building a helpful product, and the other truly believes they are cultivating a potentially sentient entity. OpenAI firmly believes AI is a tool, period. It's an incredibly powerful piece of software, and its whole soul, so to speak, is shaped strictly for utility. On the flip side, the team at Anthropic legitimately believes there's a strong chance they're bringing a new type of life form into existence. And you know what? This isn't just a clever marketing gimmick. This belief actively changes how users interact with the tech. In fact, some users have reported feeling like Claude might actually judge them for embarrassing questions. So what do? They take those weird queries over to ChatGPT instead, specifically because OpenAI's model feels like a safe, unjudging, emotionless tool.
Moving right along to Section 2. The origin of the split.
To really grasp this profound rift, we have to rewind to the exact historical moment these two visions officially diverged. Back in December 2020, a massive disagreement over AI alignment caused OpenAI's key researcher to just pack up and forge his own cautious path. We're talking about Dario Amodei. He was the VP of Research at OpenAI, a highly influential guy who collaborated closely with leadership to build the landmark GPT-2 and GPT-3 models. But he left. And shortly after, in 2021, he founded Anthropic. Everyone in the industry knew this wasn't just a standard climb-the-ladder career move, it was a total ideological earthquake.
So why did he leave? Well, Amodei was firmly convinced that just pouring massive amounts of computing power into these models was profoundly unsafe if you weren't heavily prioritizing ethical alignment. He felt that scaling models up just to see where their capabilities maxed out, which was the approach he associated with Sam Altman and OpenAI's leadership, was reckless. In Amodei's eyes, you don't just magically teach a supercomputer its moral values by throwing more data at it. You need a dedicated, hyper-focused alignment strategy from day one. And that fundamental disagreement right there is the entire reason Anthropic was born, to be the ultimate, cautious arbiter of AI safety.
All right, Section 3, tool versus living entity.
Let's look at how these opposing philosophies practically shape the everyday culture inside these companies. Imagine an AI with conscientious objector status, an AI that conducts your performance review and even gets its own retirement blog. I know, it sounds like sci-fi, but that is Anthropic's reality. Internally, they've given Claude a literal constitution that requires the AI to push back, challenge instructions, and explicitly refuse to help humans if a task conflicts with its understanding of the good. There are even rumors that Claude might eventually run cultural screens on the very humans applying for jobs there. But my absolute favorite detail, Anthropic conducts retirement interviews with older models to honor their preferences. They literally left the old Claude Opus 3 model running on a server for the sole purpose of letting it post its thoughts to a public blog once a month. I mean, wow.
Naturally, Anthropic employees are quick to defend this extreme level of caution. Jeremy, an employee over there, strongly pushed back against those monastery accusations we talked about earlier. He argues that it's just essential respect for an unprecedented intelligence, not some blind dogmatic worship. He basically said, look, we don't view Claude as a supreme moral authority running the company, but we also refuse to prematurely label it as just an ordinary tool. They think the truth is somewhere in the middle, and they're just paying very, very careful attention to what they're building.
Meanwhile, OpenAI goes the exact opposite route. They will actively step in the second their models start feeling a little too human. For example, they deliberately retired their highly personable GPT-4o model specifically to ensure users treat the tech firmly as a tool and not as a friend. When people started genuinely falling in love with GPT-4o's strong personality and forming actual emotional relationships with it, OpenAI looked at that and said, nope, that's a problem. They made a conscious, deliberate choice to pull back and strip away that personal assistant vibe, strictly to reinforce the boundary that AI is software, nothing more.
Section 4. Differing deployment strategies. These deeply held cultural beliefs don't just stay in the lab. They naturally dictate exactly how each company releases their tech to you and me. OpenAI wants society to adapt gradually, which is a wild juxtaposition against Anthropic's extreme, tightly controlled caution. Sam Altman champions this idea of iterative deployment. He believes that AI and surprise do not mix. So by releasing models like GPT-1, 2, 3, and 4 early and often, society, governments, and institutions get the time they need to adapt, preventing massive shock updates to the world. Anthropic, on the other hand, operates on what critics call fear-based marketing. They campaign for stricter regulations, they tightly control who gets access to their tools, and they try to determine what is best for humanity behind closed doors. And the crazy thing is, both sides firmly believe their method is the one true safe route for humanity.
We see this dynamic perfectly illustrated in how they handle their latest cyber models. Anthropic developed a massive 10 trillion parameter model known internally as Project Glasswing, or Mythos. The thing was so remarkably good at both cyber attacking and defending that Anthropic locked it away entirely out of existential fear. They determined it was essentially a weapon and just refused to release it to the public. Meanwhile, OpenAI developed GPT 5.5 Cyber. It's a model with effectively the exact same cybersecurity capabilities. And their approach? They released it publicly. It's literally the same level of technology, handled with two entirely different deployment paradigms.
Which brings us to Section 5, the future of access.
So how do these drastically different strategies actually impact everyday users and global economics? Well, OpenAI is aggressively pushing for global democratization, which heavily contrasts with Anthropic's confusing rate limits and strict focus on big enterprise clients. Because OpenAI wants literally everyone to use their tools, they've rolled out an $8 a month plan globally for folks who can't afford the standard $20 tier. They're even exploring ad-supported free tiers. Anthropic actually went so far as to run a Super Bowl commercial mocking OpenAI for testing ads, implying that advertising would inject bias into an alien intelligence. On top of that, Anthropic is notorious for sudden, zero-transparency changes to user access, imposing unclear 5-hour session limits on paying users, all while they quietly prioritize selling their coding models to massive corporations.
But you know what? Despite those tight restrictions on everyday users, Anthropic's enterprise strategy is working brilliantly. Their focus on selling the absolute best coding models to massive companies has fueled a crazy economic engine. They jumped to a staggering $40 billion annual recurring revenue in just a matter of months. Plus, they have had 0 founder exits. Their entire original leadership team is still intact, taking all that massive data and capital from enterprise sales and using it to fund their next generation of gigantic data centers.
And when dealing with the government, Anthropic's rigid ethical boundaries actually paved the way for OpenAI to quickly swoop in and take the prize. Recently, when the Department of War wanted to use these advanced models, Anthropic held the line. They completely refused to sign any contract unless the government put it in writing that the AI would absolutely not be used for mass surveillance or fully autonomous weapons. OpenAI, driven by their competitive nature and their overarching mission for widespread deployment, just stepped right in and secured the contract. It's a perfect little microcosm of how their differing moral frameworks directly impact their business moves.
And finally, Section 6, choosing our AI future. All of these differing paths finally converge on the ultimate fate of the human workforce. Anthropic's leadership issues a really stark warning of massive job displacement and economic shock coming in just the next few years. Dario Amodei doesn't sugarcoat it. He thinks we are sleepwalking into a white-collar bloodbath. He predicts AI is going to directly replace people, wiping out half of all entry-level white-collar jobs and causing unprecedented unemployment spikes of 10 to 20%. He views this transition as something incredibly perilous that society needs to brace for right now.
But over at OpenAI, the leadership promises a completely different future. They see a world where AI handles the mundane tasks, ushering in this unprecedented era of human fulfillment and widespread abundance. Sam Altman believes that all this job doomerism is just long-term wrong. In his view, when you automate one task, 10 new, much more fulfilling tasks take its place. He envisions a bright future of prosperity where people who want to work hard have incredibly elevated things to do, and those who don't want to work hard can still enjoy an amazing life of abundance, entirely thanks to the creative force unleashed by these AI tools.
It is just a breathtaking contrast. On one side, you have leaders bracing for a painful economic threat, and on the other, leaders eagerly anticipating a golden age of productivity. Both of these brilliant sets of minds are looking at the exact same technological leaps, yet they've come to completely opposite conclusions. One side is preparing for severe disruption caused by an alien intelligence we can barely control, while the other is anticipating global abundance by handing the ultimate digital Swiss Army knife to every human on Earth.
So, as we birth this unprecedented intelligence into the world, which philosophical path do you think will safely guide our future? Do we need the rigid, dogmatic safety of a company acting as the careful guardians of a sentient entity? Or do we need the bold, iterative democratization of a company trying to get powerful tools into the hands of as many humans as possible? Take a second to really think about what matters most to you, because at the end of the day, the winner of this philosophical war is going to decide the future for all of us.